Jose, welcome. So we are so privileged to have you here in Istanbul. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation and being part of this very important day for us, for the Futures Association of Turkey. So we're very happy to be able to celebrate this day with you. Before we start with your conversation, with your speech, I would like to make a short introduction for the people who are eagerly waiting for your speech. Jose Luis Cordeiro, he is an engineer, he is an economist, he is a futurist, he is a transhumanist. But in the international platforms, Jose is known and described as a hopeless optimist, always bursting with energy. And he also advises audiences to forget flying cars and robot butlers. The future will be a far more interesting place. And he also adds that in the future, we will be upgrading our brains every few years in the manner that we currently update our computer hardware. Now we'll just finish writing the book, The Death of Death. And he also mentioned in one of his broadcasts with Ray Kurzweil, he says that death will be optional in 2045. Now, before I let him go do the job, I will ask another question. Jose, what is your option in 2045? Are you going to choose it or you're not going to choose it?
Of course. I want to live indefinitely young, because in 2045, we will have rejuvenation technologies. So in the future, I will be younger than today.
Yes, I know your presentation. I know exactly how you would like to look like in 100 years. Okay, please, it's all yours. Take it away.
Well, thank you, my dear friends in Turkey, which is one of my favorite countries. I have been there 3 times, Istanbul, Ankara, Cappadocia, Izmir, many places. So it is really a pleasure to be with you again virtually to talk about my latest book, The Death of Death, which is an international bestseller that soon will be in 6 languages, including Turkish by the end of this year. Why do we talk about the death of death now? Because of COVID. COVID is a tragedy, but if you look at who are the people who die, it is mostly older people. Actually, age is the #1 risk factor for COVID and for all other diseases. And if you look at history throughout the planet, COVID is really nothing. COVID is a very small pandemic, very small compared to the Black Death, the bubonic plague in the 14th century that killed 200 million people when the population of the planet was not even 1 billion. So that is that over 1/4 of the population of the planet was killed, or a smallpox that killed over 50 million people, of the Spanish flu also, which was not Spanish, by the way, that also killed about 50 million people. So COVID, with 2 or 3 billion people dying, which is a tragedy. Absolutely, it is a tragedy, but it is a very small tragedy compared with Black Death, smallpox, Spanish flu, or many other diseases. However, governments are spending trillions, and companies billions of dollars for this small pandemic. So now we have to attack the biggest pandemic, which again, if you look at influenza, cancer, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular diseases, all other diseases, they are related to aging. Aging is the #1 cause of dying in all diseases. So if this happens with all diseases, let's focus on aging, because if we could cure cancer, all cancer, we would add maybe 3 years of life. If we could cure heart disease, 4 years of extra life. If we cure cancer and heart disease, we add 7 years of life. But if we cure aging, we add decades and decades of extra healthy life. So we have to change from sick care to health care. In sick care, that we have today, sick hair, we basically have all diseases disconnected. So in healthcare in the future, we have to connect them all, and they are linked to aging. Aging is at the center of all diseases. So 3 years ago, my co-author, David Good from Britain, who actually has spoken before in Turkey as well with futurism, and myself, we decided to write a book about the biggest human tragedy in the world today, which is aging. It is not climate change, it is not terrorism, it is not religious problems, it is not space issues. The biggest tragedy today in the world is aging. Over 2/3 of the population in the planet die of aging. And in the advanced countries, 90% of the people die of aging. And so we wrote this book first in Spanish that became simultaneously #1 and #5 best-selling book all over Spain and Latin America. Why #1 and 5? #1 in paper, #5 in Kindle, electronic format. And then last year in Portuguese also became #1 best-selling book in Brazil, Portugal. And now it's coming out in French. And next month it will come out in Russian, in a couple of months in Chinese, and by the end of this year in Turkish. So I am really excited that this is going around the world, and we are working on many more international editions. Why from Spain? Because Spain has the longest life expectancy in the planet after Japan today. But in 20 years, the population of Spain will be even older than in Japan because of the Mediterranean diet that we have from Turkey all the way to Spain. And there are many scientists in Spain working on anti-aging, like Maria Blasco, who leads the Cancer Center in Spain, and he was one of the authors of the hallmarks of aging, to understand aging, how we can stop aging. Or a doctor called Juan Carlos Ispizua Belmonte, who is a Nobel Prize candidate because of his discoveries about rejuvenation. This is important, rejuvenation, which we know is possible today. This is so important that I even ran as a political candidate for the European Parliament. In 2009, for the first time, we created a movement for aging and anti-aging in Spain and in Europe. And I got 7,000 votes from my home in Madrid, in Spain, 7,000 votes to begin with this. And these ideas are going global. Time magazine actually wrote an article about 2045, the year man becomes immortal. This is incredible. And it might happen even earlier than 2045. These are based on some of the ideas of my friend Ray Kurzweil, who also studied in my alma mater, MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And he talks about the singularity is near. And we are in a world of exponential change. So in the next 20 years, we are going to see more changes than in the last 2,000 years. I repeat, in the next 2 decades, more technological advances than in the last 2 millennia. We live in an incredible time of accelerating change. And Ray Kurzweil will actually publish a new book called The Singularity is Nearer, because it is closer, it is nearer this summer. So we are approaching the singularity and immortality. We basically talk about 4 technologies converging: nano, bio, info, and cogno. They are converging into this technological singularity by 2045. But before, in 2029, we will pass the Alan Turing test, and we will also reach longevity escape velocity, which means that for every year we survive, we win an extra year. So that means in 10 years, maybe sooner, we will be approaching immortality because we gain 1 year per year we survive, because life expectancy is still increasing, but still aging. However, by 2045, we will have rejuvenation technologies that will make us younger. Why? Because all technologies, including medicine now, biology, is changing exponentially, faster, smaller, cheaper, and better. And you can see what has happened with computers. 40 years ago, when I was in university, we used IBM punch cards, the punch cards that had 1K of memory, 1K. Today, we are in 1 tera of memory. Imagine what we are going to see in the next 20, 30 years, because this continues. On the software side, on the brain side, we are going into a new brain, an exocortex that will give us super intelligence. The internet, the cloud will be connected to our brain, and it will give us unlimited intelligence, unlimited memory, and unlimited communication speed. The brain is very complex, but we are going to reach that complexity and go over that complexity. In fact, Elon Musk talks about connecting the brain to the internet in the next few years through his new company, Neuralink, a link to the neurons and the cloud internet. This will give us super intelligence. In biology, fortunately, also costs are dropping exponentially. In fact, even faster than Moore's law. Moore's law is very slow in biology. Think about sequencing the genome. The first time it cost over $1 billion, and it took 13 years from 1990 to 2003. Today, in the year 2021, it is reaching $100, but soon it will go down to $10 and 1 minute of time. This is absolutely incredible. It's very exponentially both in time and in cost. So much that scientists are now working on even creating artificial life through synthetic biology. And in the year 2000, we created the first artificial viruses. But a virus is simple, it's small, and it has very few genes. In 2010, we created artificial bacteria, which are bigger, more complex. And now people are thinking we can modify, and we can even create new genomes, new genes, new chromosomes, at least by 2045. So today we are focusing also on aging, but we have discovered that aging can be considered a disease, but fortunately a curable disease, and we will be able to cure aging in the next 2 to 3 decades. What have we done so far? In the last 2 decades, we have increased the life of mice 2 times, the life of insects like flies 4 times, and the life of worms 10 times. This has been done in the last 2 decades. So imagine what we will do in the next 2 decades, because this is not linear, this is exponential. We even know today that immortality already exists, and there are immortal cells like cancer. It was discovered in 1951 with a patient called Henrietta Lacks, who died of cancer, and her cancer is still alive today. So since 1951, we do know that cancer reached immortality, discovered how not to age, even though most people are not aware of this, but cancer cells exist, and immortal cells, right? And this happened without getting a PhD. Cancer did not go to Harvard or to MIT or to Stanford. Cancer discovered it by itself. So we will discover also what cancer has done. But not only cancer is immortal, also the best cells, which are germ cells. Germ cells are also biologically immortal. That means that they do not age. They can die, and in fact, they die when the body dies, which is mostly somatic cells, but cancer cells do not age. And if you take them outside your body, they can live indefinitely forever, just like cancer cells. Also, there are small organisms like hydras. Hydras also are biologically immortal, and they could live forever unless something killed them or some other organism ate them. But hydras also are biologically immortal. And even more important, bacteria, which are the first forms of life in the planet. Bacteria that divide symmetrically do not age. In fact, they have circular chromosomes and they don't have telomeres and they do not age. So bacteria, the first life forms, are biologically immortal. Life appeared to live, not to die. And that is why the first life forms are biologically immortal. My friend Aubrey de Grey, who writes the prologue of my book, for the first time, 15 years ago, wrote this book, Ending Aging. There was a heresy 15 years ago, so much that the magazine of MIT, my alma mater, the MIT Technology Review, said that he was a charlatan, that it was impossible, that we could not cure aging in 2005. Well, 14 years later, in 2019, they said, well, actually, Aubrey de Grey is right. Old age is over if you want it. And we want it, and we are discovering how to stop aging. And even better, reverse aging. My friend also, Ray Kurzweil, from MIT and founder of Singularity University, he talks in his book, Fantastic Voyage, Live Long Enough to Live Forever. He talks about 3 bridges to immortality, 3 bridges. The first bridge that we just passed in the 2010s, the second bridge that we are starting in the 2020s with biotechnology treatments, and the third bridge in the 2030s with nanotechnology. And we will thus reach the 2040s with artificial intelligence and immortality. So we're getting very close. As he ratifies in his new book coming out this summer, the singularity is nearer by 2045 or before. But some people don't believe in these singularities, like the technological singularity of Ray Kurzweil, or the Methuselarity, the singularity of Methuselah by my friend Aubrey de Grey, or what I call the energularity, which is the energy singularity of exponential energy, also by 2045 with renewables, solar and wind. But all these things are going to happen because exponential technologies keep on improving, accelerating. But many people don't believe it. Like Arthur Schopenhauer said, all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as being self-evident. In 2045, we will see how all of this was self-evident looking back. Many scientists are working on this, and my friend David Sinclair at Harvard with a fantastic new book that just came out, or another one, Longevity in Industry. This industry, actually, because it is an industry, is growing from millions to billions and to trillions. And in 10 years, it will be the largest industry in the planet. So forget about what you are doing now. Think about anti-aging and longevity. In 10 years, the biggest industry in the planet. There is a new magazine called Nature Aging by the famous Nature. And there are other Newsweek, Time Magazine, all magazines are talking about this, about immortality now. Microsoft has said that they will cure cancer, they will solve cancer now that the human genome has been sequenced and we can find the mutations that stop molecular aging of cancer cells, which are immortal because of those mutations. And Mark Zuckerberg has said that he will cure all diseases. He's donated all his money to cure all diseases. And there was a Nobel Prize in 2012 to a Japanese scientist in medicine, Shinya Yamanaka, for rejuvenating a cell. He discovered that changing 4 genes, only 4 genes, he can rejuvenate cells. Changing 4 genes in a skin cell of a mouse. So we know today that we can stop aging, we can reverse aging. We can also accelerate aging if we want, but normally we don't want that. We want to rejuvenate and reverse aging. There are epigenetic clocks to compute your age, and we have been able to reverse aging in mice. And there are fantastic new technologies like CRISPR and senolytics to stop the old cells in the body. And I helped to organize a global conference, which is called Revolution Against Aging and Death. And this is a revolution. This is a new revolution in technology. And we have launched the first protocol for age reversal in human history, the first advances of the first bridge and the new second bridge to immortality. You can check it in internet. This is incredible. This is new. This is only 1-2 years old. So in the future, I plan to be younger, but not through a Russian application like Face App that you can be older or younger. I plan to be younger thanks to biotechnology and rejuvenation technologies. And so I invite you to come to Madrid, where I hold the biggest futuristic conference in Western Europe. In 2018, I brought robot Sophia, and in 2021, in October, we will have a new conference focused on anti-aging and artificial intelligence. So all of you, welcome to beautiful Madrid, to Spain, to talk about the death of death. So this is to meditate. We need to meditate. I do fantastic meditation, Hinduism, Buddhism, also Turkish meditation is really beautiful. And I love spinning around like some people do in Turkey. We have to think about yin and yang. This is very controversial. So there is always the dark side of the force, but this is beautiful. And let me finish with a Chinese character. This word means crisis in Chinese, crisis. But in Chinese, crisis has two parts. The first part is danger, and the second part is opportunity. We live in the most incredible time in human history, the most incredible time. There is danger, but there is opportunity. So live long and prosper, as my Trekkie friends say. Thank you very much. And I am happy to comment or have any questions, Kasim or anyone. It is my pleasure to be with you from Spain to Turkey.
Okay, Jose, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the time that you're with us. It is a very interesting subject anyways. I think half of the people are very excited about the immortality. Another part of the human side is afraid of the immortality. And another part is still suspecting whether it is true or not. So it is such an energetic subject. And let's go back to your speech. You referred to Schopenhauer, and you said there are 3 stages. Now, I would like to ask you, which stage are you on with this death of death? Is it still ridiculous or where?
We are between stages 1 and 2. Okay. Indeed. We are ridicule and we are being opposed. But people are beginning to understand that this is science. This is science. As I mentioned, the Nobel Prize in 2012 in medicine was given to a Japanese scientist who proved that biological rejuvenation is possible. And again, we also know that immortality is possible because it already exists. Cancer cells became immortal, germ cells are immortal, bacteria are immortal.
Very good, very satisfactory answers, because it is really scientific. If you look at it from that point of view, it definitely makes sense. It needs already only time to develop and prove itself, because we don't need to prove it anymore. It's gonna do it by itself. We will see the examples. Now, Jose, I have a couple of questions on the chat. I'm going to share it with you. One of them is by Dilek Vatansever. She also wrote in English, "Our people want to immortality. Are they sure? You must investigate this, so please answer my question." She demands you. Please answer her question.
Yes, this has been the biggest dream of humanity, of all cultures, all civilizations, since the beginning of recorded time, since the beginning of history. In fact, near Turkey, in Mesopotamia, was written the first book in human history, the Epic of Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh and his friends wanted to be immortal in the first written history book. But not only in Mesopotamia, also the Chinese, the emperor, Qin Shi Huang, who unified China, and he built the terracotta army because he wanted to be immortal. Or in Egypt, The pyramids built the pharaohs built the pyramids to be immortal. Or in Spain, Spain was looking for the fountain of eternal youth in the Americas. So the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians, the Chinese, the Spanish, the biggest dream of humanity has been immortality. And now, for the first time, we are very, very close. I like to say we are between the last mortal generation and the first immortal generation. And you can choose if you want to die or if you want to live.
All right. Now, one more question coming from Cenktes Can, a good friend. How do you put the effect of healthy living versus drugs for longevity?
Many of these things are connected. And as I said, there are three bridges, bridge 1, bridge 2, bridge 3. And we need to work on all different fronts. One does not exclude the other. So we are going to have many types of medical treatments. In fact, right now, scientists are working on many things, on stem cell therapy, self-reprogramming, senolytics, and many, many, many things. So it's not just one thing that we are researching, but many. However, as I mentioned, we know immortality is possible because it already exists. So the proof of concept is there, and we need to know what are the best treatments. So actually, some people talk that in the future, we might have an injection or a pill to rejuvenate. So all of these ways are possible, and we are trying to discover the best, like with vaccines. The COVID vaccine, there are people working on different ways to do the vaccine, including pills and also with a nasal spray. So there are many ways to do medicine, and many things will be possible for rejuvenation and for to live young as long as you want.
Okay, the last question comes to you rather from a philosophical point of view. The gentleman, Zafer H, says, you described aging something to be cured, okay? But why? Because, so you're gonna be breaking the circle of life. People get bored, people live, and people die. And then again and again. So why do you think the aging needs to be stop?
As I mentioned, there are life forms that are immortal. The first life forms on the planet, bacteria, are biologically immortal. And among multicellular organisms, there are small animals, hydras, medusas, that are immortal. And we, multicellular organisms, also have immortal cells. The germ cells in our bodies are immortal. So immortality is present in our bodies. But again, this is optional. If some people want to die, they can die. This is free. You are free to die if you want. In fact, until now, we had no choice. We had no choice. We had to die. But for the first time, we are going to have the choice to live or to die. And those who want to die will be able to die happily. If you want to die happily, or unhappily if you want to die unhappily. But most people will decide to live because we will be young, healthy, and we will be in a better world because there will be no aging if you do not want to age. So also one more thing, we cure diseases. Why do you want to cure cancer if you have cancer? Or why do you want to cure Alzheimer's? Or why do you want to cure COVID, for example? Because these are diseases, and aging is the mother of all diseases. If we cure aging, we basically have no COVID, we basically have no Alzheimer's, we have no Parkinson's, we have no cancer. So instead of curing COVID or Alzheimer or Parkinson's or cancer, we need to cure aging. That is why we have to cure aging. The biggest cause of suffering in the whole planet, 2/3 of the people in the planet die because of aging.
All right, well, that's a good answer. Now, of course, this has further consequences, which we can discuss in other platforms another time, because that's a huge consequence of keeping everyone alive on our planet. There are other questions and answers to that. But Jose, thank you very much for today. The time that you spent with us together, it was a joy. It was our pleasure to have you over here. So hope to see you soon as possible, in flesh and blood in Turkey, and talk about your book. And please keep us posted how it develops and how we're going to be able to get it in Turkey in our hands. We'll be able to read. So until next time, I would like to thank you again and say goodbye.
Thank you. Live long and prosper.
Yes,
Live
definitely.
long and prosper.